today's topic, I actually chose, it's a book, and I think some of you may have already read this. This book is available in all our offices. It's called The Rules of Work. I've taken the first chapter, walk the talk from it. And again, I've not taken everything from it. Basically, this book by Richard Templer, it was first published back in 2003. The newer version, it's had about 3 versions since then. The newer version, which I have used, was published 2015. So it's written by the author with the concept of his own experience in life, as well as some of the successful people, what tricks or traits they've used to become successful. So if you think about some of the points I will go over, it's basically talking about giving you advice, telling you that if you want to be the successful at work, you be the role player. And here are some of the things you do, you follow, which makes you the role player, which makes you successful. So as I go over, keep this point in mind that this is from the perspective of how author wrote, what you would need to do as an individual if you want to be having a successful career or having success at work. There are almost 108 or 109 rules it talks about in the book. I have taken the first chapter. I believe there's around 6 or 7 chapters. Each chapter tells you about different aspects. I've taken first chapter, Walk the Talk, and I've taken about 6 rules, I think, from it. Just to give you guys a brief idea and just a reminder. So I hope you will be interested now to go read this book in detail. There's another one actually similar called Rules of Life as well, which again, these are basics. This gives you some basic reminder, basic points. So the first one I have taken is rule 1, get your work notice. So what this talks about is we are all working, right? We are all doing a great job. Even if you are working extra hours, getting that work done even late. But what it's telling you, if you want your career to move ahead, if you want to be noticed, if you want to be progressing faster, you need to get your work noticed. You need to stand out. Now, it tells you about, I've taken and summarized some of the points from the chapter. And what it's saying is few things like, if you do more work than others of the same work, then not necessarily you will get noticed. But if you find ways of how the job you guys are doing, if you can find, okay, maybe I can find a better way of doing it. If you can relate to any of the field you're working on, whether you're a developer in the QA, in business dev, in HR, all of the departments, what this is talking about is, suppose there is a way we do things, suppose there's a checklist we work on. Now, instead of you just always going through and following what everybody else is doing, which again, it probably works. I'm not saying you have to change everything, but have your mind open, look out and see if there is something that can be done differently, whether that would make your job much better, whether the result, the output from it would be much better. It would help your colleagues to do the same job in a more efficient way. So these are the type of things it talks about, what makes you stand out. It doesn't mean that you try to find faults in everything and try to find a different solution. It's not about that, but it's about, instead of blindly just sitting and following and doing the same thing as everyone else, have your eyes and ears open. Try to see if there's a better way, more efficient way of doing the same work. There's one thing it talks about, it's called the unsolicited report, which is basically what I just explained, that maybe find something you notice, maybe create a report on it and submit to your manager or your TL that, okay, this is a better method. Maybe we can do this way. And again, that doesn't mean you now go and create a report over every single thing. It's about finding that opportunity and see whether you can make a difference, we can stand out. But you can't stand out even if you create all these reports and if you find alternate ways of doing things, if you're not good at your job. So the first thing you have to be is, you have to be very dedicated to your job. You have to be very good at what you do. When you're very good at it, that's when you'll actually have that enough knowledge to know that there might be a better way of doing this, which will be a way for you to stand out. Um, it talks about how if you want to progress and do well and get yourself noticed, you should ignore the politics, the gossips that goes around. Every organization has those, but if you are a role player, you stay focused, you stay on track, and you ignore everything else that is going on in terms of politics and gossips. The second rule I picked is rule number 4, which says carve out a niche for yourself. So what that says is basically you try to find a spot where you see there's an opportunity, where you want to be the expert in that area. And it could be anything. So it talks about some examples, like there is a person in their organization who everyone went to for help because he knew a lot of the information about customers. So this person went out of his way to always find out the customers, when their birthdays are, when the kids' birthdays are, if which college the kid is going to. A lot of extra information. So basically, built up that relationship with the customer and went out of his way to get that information and have that knowledge. So that made him the expert, and everybody would always go to him for any advice they needed for a specific customer. If they're going to close a deal with a certain customer, they would come to him and ask the information about this customer's background. So you need to think about things like that. There's some of you in the company where you do establish relationship with clients, where you actually know more about client. You don't have to know, but you just ask, you talk to them and have conversations. So it gives you that edge. You're much better dealing with that customer. So even if you think about your expert level, a technology field or any other field, if you can find a spot where you see, okay, there's an opportunity where I can become expert, but don't make the mistake of thinking that, oh, I am the best and I'm invincible, I'm the only one. That's not the point. It's about thinking about yourself, of how you can make a place for yourself. Maybe you become the best person who does presentations. Maybe you can be the one who is very good with creativity, design, or something unique, where you basically create a niche for yourself. And what this does is you get noticed more. So what the author telling you is why you need to carve a niche for yourself is you get noticed more. And when other managers, other TL talks about you, that means, even if your TL or manager is not paying as much attention to you, when they hear others are noticing you, your manager, your TL has to also notice and accept that you are somebody that is doing well, who has created a place for themselves, who has created a niche for themselves in the company. So again, everything I'm saying, think of how the perspective author used. The author is telling you, if you want to be successful, be the role player, and these are the rules that you need to play by. The next point, rule I picked is called learn to ask why. So if you are given a task, suppose I'll take example of when you guys work on a project as a developer, you have to write a code to collect data from the form. Now, you might be good at writing the code, you might be good at creating form and getting that data, but if you really don't understand how that form is being used, what is the purpose of it, or even if you think about anybody working, what is it that you're doing and how that affects the bigger picture? Where does it all fit in? If you don't understand that, you will not be able to do the best job that you can. Whenever you know that, okay, this part actually will fit into this bigger picture, and it will help to solve this issue, whether it's anything in the company or anything of the client's projects you guys are working on. When you understand the business side of the project, when you know that this website's purpose is this is trying to achieve this is when you will be able to do a better job, and you will also be able to come up with suggestions and solutions, a better way of doing things, because you see the bigger picture, you see the purpose of it, why this is being done. So that's why the author is telling you, be a role player. Don't just blindly go and do what you're told to do. Try to understand the bigger picture of it. Your job also starts to make sense. When your job makes sense, you automatically put more effort into it. You want to do better, you want to progress more. So that's why the author is reminding us that make sure that ask the questions. Whenever, again, don't get confused by this rule. That doesn't mean every single thing being told to you, you have to ask a question. That is also not the point. The point is when you are doing something, when you know why you're doing it, then it makes more sense. Then you're able to also apply your own common sense to do the job even better. When you know the reason behind it, you're more motivated in doing any job. So that's why it's an important rule. The author reminded us that learn to ask why any of the things you're doing, where does it all fit in, the bigger picture of it. The next rule is rule number 8, which says learn from others' mistakes. Again, this is not telling you that you cannot make mistakes, or it's also not telling you that when others make mistake, you go and start asking them or question them, and try to show them up or why you made that mistake. But what he's saying is one way of progressing is when you actually also learn from others' mistakes, not just your own mistakes. So I like that quote in there. It says, a clever man learns from his own mistakes, but a wise man learns from others' mistakes. So that means, as well as you learning from your own mistakes, keep your eyes and ears open to see your colleagues, what kind of mistakes they may have made, so that you can also learn from their mistakes. But be very careful how this is done. It's not about you go and ask them, or you be condescending and show them off and point it out, or you made that mistake. It's or being nosy. It's about gently trying to find out the mistake, maybe offering your colleague to help, to rectify the mistake they've made, what you can do to help them. This is how you find out the type of mistakes they made or what mistakes they made. And you also learn a lesson from it, that okay, so these are the type of mistakes that I should learn not to make. Again, having said that, it doesn't tell you that you are not allowed to make mistakes. All this is saying is, as well as learning from your own mistakes, you try to learn from your others mistakes as well. So this is giving you double sort of knowledge, double edge, in order for you to move your career up. I mean, so many times you look around you, I can tell you personally, when I have seen people said something, it made you aware that you realize, okay, I should not be speaking in such manner. I mean, sometimes this happens is when I hear, um, I mean, I'll probably use most examples of Shahid because he's the person I work with mostly. One thing I hear sometimes Shahid mentions like people's names when he's talking about in meetings, and specific names he mentions. And one thing I have learned from this is sometimes you're just mentioning name, but you're not realizing that others may feel left out because they might think, okay, only these people are getting noticed, but it's not really the intention. It's just the names that comes to his mind. He usually uses them. But that's one thing I have learned, that I try not to use specific people's name in bigger meetings, because you don't want to make it sound like that, okay, you're only giving attention to these people and you're not giving the other people who have actually worked hard as well, you're not mentioning their name. So these type of small things, I'm giving an example what I have learned as mistakes that I've seen, what sometimes he does, and it makes me aware. I'm not saying I don't make mistakes, I also obviously make mistakes, but this is just an example of how others mistakes you can learn from, so you don't make that same mistake. But having said that, don't be under the impression that the author is telling you to be a role player, you cannot make mistakes. You can make mistakes, but you learn double when you also learn from others' mistakes. right? The next one is rule number 9: enjoy what you are doing. If you're not enjoying yourself, what are you doing? If you think about this question, you are at work, you're working, okay, now that you're working from home due to pandemic, but in general, when you're working, you're in the office, you spend majority of your time at work. If you don't enjoy what you're doing, then it's actually, it doesn't give you motivation, you don't find energy, you don't basically have any kind of enthusiasm towards it. So there's another thing where the author wrote, which I found interesting, that there are people who enjoy always moaning, complaining about their job. It's kind of become a thing, and whether they actually hate their job or not, it's not about that. It's just it's a social norm within the office of complaining about your job. You don't necessarily have to join that group. This is what the author is saying. To be a role player, you don't have to join this group of always complaining about your job. You need to enjoy what you do, and there's no shame in saying that you enjoy your work. I remember when many, many years ago, when I used to work before SJ Innovation, I can clearly relate to this. There was a group of people I used to go to lunch with, and I have never heard them say they enjoy their work, they like it. They always complained about that something wrong with the management, something they're not happy with. And then I was talking to my manager at the time, and I was telling him, because I was new, I had joined, it was just beginning of my career. And I was telling him that I mean, I don't understand. They're so unhappy, and yet they are at the job for many years. So why are they doing this? So my manager had told me at the time that it's not that they're not happy. This is just a sort of a way for them to gossip and talk. It's not necessarily that they don't like the work. Why do you think they're still here? They've been in the company for long enough. If they hated it so much, they wouldn't be here. So this is, I can relate to this, that is there, some people's nature is this. Some people think, oh, always complaining or always being negative about management or about my work means it gives a common ground, I guess, for people to talk about. So that's one of the reasons why people start talking about this. But if you're a role player, what the author is saying is you ignore that, enjoy what you do. If you don't enjoy this job, maybe you shouldn't be doing this job. You should be finding yourself a job that you enjoy. Because remember, you work most of your life. 65 is the retirement age, and every day, 5 days a week, you are working 8 hours, 9 hours a day in the office. If you don't enjoy this, if you don't like the job you do, all you will be doing is giving yourself more stress. You will not feel achievement from it. You will feel your life is not going anywhere because you are coming in every day to a job where which is you're not enjoying. So a role player enjoys the work. Enjoying work means it reduces your stress level. It means, you know, work being good means you take pride in what you do. You enjoy the challenges, you look forward to it with enthusiasm. So every day you look forward to going into office, you look forward to, oh, what's next, what am I going to do next. That enthusiasm drives you, that enthusiasm keeps you motivated at work. If you find that, oh, why do I have to go in, why work, then that means you're actually not enjoying this work. That means you're not performing to the best of your ability as well. You have to enjoy what you do in order for you to do the best job as well. When you are half-hearted, when you are not liking the job you're doing, you will not put your best in, and the result will also not be best. So take pride in what you do, be proud of your job, enjoy it. And if you really see that it's a job you're not enjoying at all, maybe think about whether it's the right job for you or not. Again, don't get me wrong, I'm not telling any of you that you should leave your job, but this is what the author is telling you, that this is how you progress in your career. When you are enjoying what you are doing, you're doing a better job because you're enthusiastic about your job and you're putting your best effort in. right? The next rule, rule number 12, which is the last one I took, is called manage your energy. So obviously we all know that energy is the most essential resource and it really doesn't look after itself. So it's your responsibility to make sure that you're coming into your job with full energy. Now, this point talks about the different levels of energy. Obviously, the physical energy is where you need to make sure you're staying fit and healthy. You're looking after yourself, you're eating well, you are not staying up late watching TV, you're not going out the night before with friends and drinking and eating till late, because you know that next day you have work. It's just like how we always push children to go to bed early because they have school the next morning, because they need to be fit and energized in the morning to go to school and focus as well. So it's a similar thing. You need to make sure that you are looking after your physical energy because you have work in the morning. So don't do things that you know the next day you will not have any energy left to do the work or go into work. It talks about, as well as physical energy, take care of your mental energy. What it means is that we all work differently. Some people enjoy working in noisy environments. Some people enjoy, or some people do better when they're under pressure. They get more done. Some people can work earlier in the morning. They have fresh mental energy then, and they can achieve more. So you need to find what works best for you, what gives you that mental energy. Some people maybe gives them that boost when they come into office and they are sitting in their on their desk, maybe the colleague next to them, so talking to them gives them the energy. So you find what gives you the mental energy, and you basically, that time where you have the highest mental energy, get the critical work done that time. So save the, whether it's the morning time, whether that's when you have most energy, whether it's in the afternoon, whether when somebody gives you a deadline that you are more motivated, you have more energy to get more things done. You need to find what works for you and you need to utilize that, and that this is what works for me and this is where I work best, and use it to get the job done in much better. It also talks about not forgetting your emotional energy. Emotional energy is basically how we feel. If something goes wrong at home when you're coming into work, are we bringing that into work? If we are we letting that emotion take over everything else? So we need to keep an eye on this. Managing your emotional energy is also important. You don't want that to ruin your work for you, ruin your day for you. We are all human beings, we will all have issues in life. So what he's saying is how to manage your emotional energy. If something is bothering you, your personal life at home, when you go into office, first of all, try not to take the home life into office. But if it's something it's hard to control, when you are in office, when you're at work, talk to your manager, talk to your colleague, then share with them where they might be able to give you some support, some ideas, or at least telling you not to worry. Sometimes that's all you need for you to stop worrying. So emotional energy is also, you need to learn to control, learn to manage, because it does affect you when you go into your work. And if you carry that baggage with you at work, it really hampers your work and your career. The other point the author reminds us is also your spiritual side of things, your spiritual energy. Spiritual energy, it could be, some people, it could be related to your religious side of things, where your prayers gives you that energy, you feel a sense of peace inside you. It could be something you do, even the job you do could give you that morale boost, that sense of um, achievement or sense of worthiness, that I am doing something that is worthy or is making a difference. That kind of could be a spiritual energy as well for you, that gives you that peace inside, that keeps you calm and keeps you going. So again, I thought this is a very good reminder of remembering that if to be a role player to progress, some of these points you also need to keep in mind that it matters. How you manage your energy, what you do affects your performance at work, affects how your progress in your career. So I said short presentation. I took only few rules. As I said, there are about 109 rules in the book. I hope that you guys all find time to go through, read it. Gives you a good perspective, especially because we have a lot of members here. You guys have just started your career. So it will be a good guidance for you of, and remember, this is written from experience. So people have gone through it, been through it, they have seen it, and they've giving you the tips that works in order for you to progress your career well and be successful. So I hope from this presentation, you guys feel encouraged to go and read this book and find something useful from it, and you actually take lessons from it. So that's basically my presentation for today.